Hello and welcome to Start the Beat with Sykes. My name is Sykes and this is my podcast. Before we get started, I just wanted to take a quick moment to thank everyone who checked out the last episode. If you're one of those people, I hope you enjoyed the conversation and thanks so much for coming back. But for everyone out there who's new to the show, welcome. Feel free to make yourselves at home. And as always, there's beer, soda, water, coffee in the fridge. Cheers to everyone out there on the internet. How am I supposed to ask the band that I'm in questions about the band, right? But also, how do we do this in a way where it's not some rambly off the rails sort of thing that only people who are friends with us are going to get something out of this? Because the idea is to maybe create something entertaining for our friends, but also to generate something that's informational for anybody who has never heard Greywalker. So let's just do a quick rundown of what is Greywalker. Evan, go.
Oh, okay. So genre-wise, what is Greywalker, right?
And that's a great question, isn't it? Because it's been the question all along.
Yeah.
What is it?
It's a mix of things. I think that what makes us is we're all about like the twin guitar thing. You know, we're very into, or at least I am. Sorry if you guys aren't. No, just joking. I know you are. But like Judas Priest, Iron Maiden, Thin Lizzy, dual guitar harmony thing. I think has always been like something that we've always done. God, if you guys have listened to, if other people have listened to us, I hope that they see that we try to write songs. I think that's something that's really important. Song structure. I'm a pop song structure guy. I know we've talked, Ryan, about that type of thing before. I want a hook. I want a chorus. I like movement. I like the verses to be kind of like evil or brooding and like
you kind of want everything to be like a well-rounded composition. Like you kind of want to I've kind of hit, not saying that there's necessarily a checklist, but it's like, all right, well, this kind of has all like the key components of kind of what you visualize as really like songs that really stick with you.
Yeah, for sure. And like, we're just really, I don't know, we're all into thrash and punk rock, new wave of British heavy metal, new wave of American heavy metal, metalcore stuff. I don't know, as long as it's kind of thrashy and upbeat, but we also like epic and kind of, we talk about the riff eagle coming out. So on a good chorus part, you know, when we feel like we got a good lead that's soaring over top, that's like the riff eagle. Like we're always looking to take you on that mountaintop. And I guess that's it.
That's like the interesting thing about the band has always been like, if you were to describe it, it's like we're into all genres of metal and we just like writing songs. It's not progressive. It's not avant-garde. It's not anything really other than metal. But I feel that the entire time that we've been in this band, it's always hard for people outside to put us in a box. I feel like sometimes we either are like battling like, oh, like we play with bands that are older than us and we're doing like that young kid shit, even though we're all in our fucking 30s. Or we play with bands that are younger than us and we're doing that old man shit. It's like, right. I feel like the approach that we've had to songwriting has always been pretty traditional and not crazy, but I don't know why it always seems like it just gets lumped into like well, not always. I think there are plenty of people that get it and dig it, right? Mm-hmm. Why can't it just be like, this is a metal band and just take it for that?
Yeah, I think we intentionally or not, like kind of like being just straightforward.
Metalheads like to put people in certain spots.
Yeah.
But we try to not be in one spot.
We do get some that are fairly accurate in a way that I can't deny as influence, to be fair. So like I would be a terrible liar if we get a Darkest Hour comparison all the time. sign me up. You know,
Yeah,
we love that type of stuff, or like any of the Swedish melodic death stuff. I listen to that to death, like too much probably. So like if someone says like Old in Flames, which I heard recently, I was like, hell yeah. Which is like, we're not really, but we're into that.
Well, and even, guitar or drum wise as well. Like, it seems, more and more, it's like in the metal drumming world, it's kind of like a competition. It's like who can play like the fastest blast beats and who can like, just be going just absolutely crazy. And that's just something like I'd never subscribe to. That's, coming from the punk rock thing. But that's also sort of similar to a lot of these bands that you talk about. It's like, yeah, they have some, some stuff. It's not, I wouldn't say it's simple drumming, but it's not, anything that people would consider extreme. So even in that respect, it matches a lot of those older, thrash style bands that, just aren't, there's just not as many of them around that are sort of younger. I would say that maybe we're on the younger side of that sort of spectrum at this point. Cause that's kind of like an age that started a long time ago. And it's, I could see a little bit of it coming back in some music, but it's still kind of something that's a little bit in the past.
I don't know. It just doesn't impress me from a technical perspective. I find that like the thing that bums me out the most about a lot of heavy metal, it's not all heavy metal, but a lot of heavy metal these days, is that people are looking for like the next craziest thing and not the next best thing. It's like if it was all hot sauce and everybody's like, oh, I need the hotter hot sauce. It's like, well, what about the flavor? The flavor doesn't matter. Is it hotter? What's the Scoville units? What's the BPM? Right? Like, who the fuck cares? I mean, it's just not for me, man.
So I was telling Evan, the term riff salad, it's like people just want to show how technical they can play instead of focusing on actually trying to write something cohesive and well-rounded and you want to listen to. It's like just putting a bunch of riffs over and over and over again just to show off, basically.
Well, and there's a place for it. Like I'm not saying that, there's no value in that music. I mean, there's definitely a place for it, but it's just not
our thing.
It's not our thing. And I think it's just, it does seem to be becoming the trend of more shock value rather than songwriting. And, I personally like better songwriting. That's why I'm into more pop music, is because I enjoy the hooks and I enjoy the structure and, I enjoy the nuances to it, just the little things that are added on top, not necessarily something that quite sticks out when you hear it the first time, but something after you go back and you listen to it, something different that you catch that wasn't quite prominent, but you realize it was a layer that made you attach a feeling to that song.
Yeah. So, I think something that might help people get a better understanding of us as a band, if they don't know us already as people personally, would be to maybe dig into some of our influences outside of heavy metal and how they impact the band. Because I think that we brought it up before, but for me, listening to a lot of pop music, and not necessarily modern pop. I mean, you can go back to fucking old Rod Stewart or Police or anything like that. Like, these are fucking awesome songs. And like, I always try to absorb that stuff. And even when we're writing songs, thinking about like, yo, this part should be longer, this part should be shorter. Like, don't forget there's going to be, it's not just the guitars here, or it's not just the drums here. Like, don't think about your part too much, or maybe you should think, I'm like always thinking about those things more, and it's always coming from like a pop background. So for you guys, let's maybe start with Colt. Musical influences in terms of like the stuff that you want to do and what you think you bring to the table with Greywalker, which I guess you're in an awkward position now because you're
but I have a similar background to Joey. I grew up listening to punk rock and just those simple riffs, simple, easy to listen to parts that are just catchy, the hooks. I'm not like a technical player or anything like that, but it's more bringing something that to keep it simple, stupid, Kiss. So
yeah.
It doesn't have to be overcomplicated, but then, sometimes it does need to be. So that's when you got people like Evan. It's like, this needs a little, little Evan love on that riff.
Zazz.
Zazz it up. yeah, like punk rock and thrash and stuff. That's where I come from mostly. You know.
Yeah, I think that yin yangs. I know, Joey, you're next in line, but you kind of already talked about coming from a punk rock background, and I think that is like the whole thing that makes Greywalker what it is like there's that mixture between like a melodic heavy metal and kind of like not and like a more pop focused punk rock background, because we're not talking like a crusty type punk background. We're talking more like, what some may call like mall punk, but like 90s era epitaph bands and shit like that.
And also like a lot of the bands that I enjoyed from that sort of era were more influenced by metal, like bands like Lagwagon and Propagandy and I would say newer, but they're not that much newer. Is a Wilhelm Scream is another example. It's just very like metal style guitars over
Strung out.
Strung out. Another one from that era of just like they're punk rock bands, but you could tell they were inspired by metal bands before them. And then the other side of it is just growing up, my dad being a radio disc jockey. It's like I get all of this different music that was around the house, or that, I'd go to work with my dad and he would be at the radio station, and whatever the format was at that time, it's like, yeah, I'm listening to that, whatever's kind of going on. So I got all of this stuff when I was younger, and then it kind of went into the punk rock because it's like, yeah, you're 13 years old and, you're in high school and you're being angsty or whatever, and
Pink
you join a
Floyd's
band,
cool,
and of
Mom,
course it's going to be, of course it's going to be punk rock, and it just kind of all went from there.
Yeah. And then I guess Evan, what's the quick background for you, man?
I guess like Joey, mine came from home first. My parents are music teachers. My sisters played piano and sang, and I got it all, man. I was very lucky. My dad always says it's all the same 12 notes. So he's right. I just kind of always took it in. Now angsty high school Evan put all those into a bundle and got into hardcore and heavy metal and stuff like that.
Hair and shit.
Yeah, right. You grow your hair out and put holes in your ears, and that stuff sticks with you too. So man, I'm into anything as long as it's good song, good music. Usually find something I like about it if you listen carefully. I like being an active listener.